movie talk.
Yeah, something rhymes, something has like a little catch, a little ring to it. But yeah, man, I think it maybe once a week. I mean, obviously, everybody got no time anymore, but just whenever we get together and talk about our second favorite passion, watching movies.
Absolutely. So we are. What we want to get into it then? I guess it's going to be. We're going to talk about Chapter 2. And we're not going to worry.
Yeah,
we're not going to worry about.
Force my hand here. So,
well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're just picking something. And I mean, because it's been out for a while, we're not going to worry about if we say spoilers, right?
Well, that's the thing. People probably be like, "Well, you guys are talking about a movie that's been out 3 months or 4, whatever it is." But yeah, the thing is, we haven't done this in a long time, and I didn't see it until like probably. Not even a month ago, 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah, there's a few. I just saw it a few weeks ago too. So let's not worry. So if you're tuning in and you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, we're going to just talk about it, and so there may be spoilers. And if you haven't seen it yet, then don't watch this. Come back another time.
That's pretty much what it is. People, all the time people complain about this and that. They don't like this on TV. They don't like that on the radio. You can always turn the channel. So just that's one thing.
Yeah. I mean, if this was something that came out like Dr. Sleep just came out, I wouldn't get into spoilers or anything if we were going to talk about that. But with it's a month or so now. Well, it came out in September actually, right? And I don't think I saw it
the beginning, but like the beginning of September though. So it's been a minute. It's been a couple months
actually. So, So anyways, in case you're living in Iraq, It Chapter 2 is the sequel to It that came out a couple of years ago, which broke all kind of records for a horror movie. And it was great. We went to see it together, and then I found out you had actually gone to see it a few days before. You told me like about a year later.
I've never ever. It's rare that I go to movies by myself, but that movie hyped me up so much I wanted to see it. I kept watching it. I couldn't wait, so I just it was a kid on Christmas trying to sneak into where the parents had the gifts and try to check it out beforehand, and then act like you're surprised. But yeah, because I did that shit for years. But anyway, it just was one of those things where I was so hyped up for the first one, and to me, that first one lived up to the hype. It was just a well done movie.
Yeah.
The acting was good. I know horror movies aren't always known for their acting, but
the kids. I think what was really impressive though is the young people really brought it. They really freaking brought it, like just in spades. And the other thing that's was really terrifying about it is because there's a famous Simpsons episode where Bart is fighting Mr. Burns. And Mr. Burns is like, "Why aren't you scared?" He's like, "'Cause kids never die." And that's like kind of thing in like a lot of TV shows and movies and stuff like that. Usually if there's a kid involved, usually the kid ends up being okay. Because you never want to do anything to a kid. That's like in poor taste or whatever. But what's really powerful, I think, about Chapter 1 is these kids' loss of innocence, because kids aren't really supposed to be exposed to death in that way. You know what I mean? It's one thing if like you're 10 years old and your grandmother who's 80 passes away and you go to the funeral or whatever and it's all, but to have like friends being murdered and stuff around you is really traumatizing, So I think that I don't think that Chapter 2 was ever going to be scary on that level because Chapter 2 deals with the adults versus the kids. So I think right off the bat, I think I kind of went in knowing that I wasn't going to expect that. But yeah, so Chapter 1, I mean, you and I both agree we loved it, but you didn't really like Chapter 2. I have problems with Chapter 2. I didn't mean to kind of come across as I thought it was the greatest movie ever. I enjoyed it, but I definitely have my issues with it.
Yeah, we've established long ago that we don't like the same kind of movies usually in the horror genre, but that's what makes it a fun kind of back and forth, because there's a lot of movies we do like that we have similar taste. I mean, but I like more, I like to see a head explode once in a while, or something like an arm fall off.
Did you ever see? Speaking of heads exploding, did you ever see Feast?
Yeah, that's a movie.
If you like gore, that's really good. That's a lot of gore.
That's almost overkill, though.
Yeah, that's crazy, but that's really a gory film. But anyways, I'm sorry, I digress. But yeah, you like that,
first half hour of when I seen it, and then the little kids like trying to get the boat in the sewer right there, and he's like looking down. Then Pennywise comes out, then he rips his freaking arm off. We're not even a half hour into the flick, and we already got an arm being.
We might have been 10 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean that movie. Yeah. It comes out swinging, and
I remember Samantha was there with us, and she had like tears in her eyes when the kid got killed, and she was feeling that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, poor Georgie, man. He didn't have a chance. He should have ran out of there while he could. He stayed there way too long. But anyway, yeah, when you go with the movie and then it starts out with an arm being tore off within the first 10, 15, whatever it was of the movie. Then I know I'm in for a ride, man. I mean, some movies are a slow burn. We've decided on that too.
The Witch, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies that are good, but it just takes a long time to get good. It's when it's like The Witch, for instance, and when it kicks in, it kicks in.
Yeah.
But I thought, It Chapter 1 was one of the movies that just it did deal with the loss of innocence, and there was a lot of like those undertones too with the father of what's the little redhead girl's name? The father of Beverly Marsh.
Beverly, yeah.
The father was kind of creepy, and it kind of put that other like ominous tone to that, to those parts, and just a lot of different things that were going on with the the characters. There was like a nice little individual character study, and you seen how they all came together. And I really liked that about the first movie. I thought it just it showed a group of kids that had things in common where they could just find that bond and just give each other that
I think I think Chapter 1 brought together that sense of adolescent camaraderie that you got in Stand By Me. That whole feeling was there, and the kids were so good, just like they were in Stand By Me. That I kind of felt that like when we were watching it, I kind of was going okay, this is kind of an instant classic. This is going to go down in the horror genre as one of those wow movies, just an instant classic, and you're going to watch it every Halloween. You're going to it's one of those movies you're really going to enjoy. I've seen it at least twice since we saw it. I know I've seen it at least twice and loved it every single time. But when
it came on HBO for the first time, I was watching it every other day. I watched it 5 or 6 times.
I don't think I have it on Blu-ray yet, but I'm gonna get it on Blu-ray. I am definitely gonna get it.
It was just one of the movies that it was on constantly. It's just then I don't catch it from the beginning every time, but you can rewind it and pause and do all that crazy shit with it. So it's you can just take it all the way back to the beginning, restart it. And I can watch it from anywhere from the start, or I'll catch it in the middle. I already know what the hell happens.
You know what's going to happen, so you just you're looking up for this part or that part. Yeah.
So I've seen the whole movie again several times, and I've seen bits and pieces of it probably another friggin' 20 times.
So what were your main issues with Chapter 2?
I think that the Chapter 2 was just too over the top for me, man. It was too many effects. Where the first one relied on, first one isn't overly scary. I mean, you could probably frighten, a child with it or something, but it was creepy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of a clown taking your freaking kids, and the clowns are supposed to be the the highlight of the party. But anyway,
that's the other side of it. Is it is a clown and kids, and that is all supposed to be nice, and it's very not nice.
No, not at all. He's gonna eat your arm or anything else he can get his hands on. But it was just the fact where I think that I mentioned this to you before. I think the first one was so successful that they probably had such an outrageous budget for the second one. They were like, "Here, just do what you
overdid it."
It was like giving a
Here's how I would fix Chapter 2. Here's what I would do. I would eliminate all the flashback stuff. I would eliminate 90% of the flashback stuff because, first of all, and I can't remember the character's name. I do have it pulled up on Wikipedia, and I can look it up in a second. But the kid with the glasses and the dark hair, who I think grew up to become Bill Hader.
What's his name? Richie.
Yeah. So here's what happens. what I'm looking at those flashbacks and I'm going like, oh, that kid aged weird. Like his face looks goofy. And then I found out later, I should have known right then, that they CGI'd him to try to make him look younger. Well, if you're going to do that and you're not going to do it right, that should have just been cut. They should just removed. It was not necessary to have any of that stuff in there. And I think that if they would have made a 90-minute to 100-minute, like ram it down your throat, scare the living shit out of you type of movie, I think it and made it fast, I think that they would have been way more successful. And they could have done stuff with the creatures and stuff where they made those things a lot tighter and a lot shorter and a more kind of like bursts of like you weren't sure exactly what you saw. I think that it would have they would have been way more successful with it. And then on Blu-ray, you put out the theatrical and then you put out the director's cut, and you can add all that other stuff back in for the people that want to see more of the monsters or want to have more of the backstory. And I think that that would have fixed it. I just think it suffered from pacing issues and the typical thing, the Jaws thing, where, they wanted to, remember in Jaws, the original idea was to show the shark all the time, but they ended up not showing the shark and it ended up working a lot better. And I think if they would have pulled back on some of that stuff and gave it in bursts where you weren't quite sure what you just saw, that's the kind of stuff that's it's a lot creepier. But it was just too much. I get what you say. It was like over the top, and I think that and here's the problem. Let me ask you this, because we talked about other creature movies in the past. I know you're not a big fan of creature movies. Do you think that the issue is this? Because I don't think you can look at a creature movie or even a sci-fi movie or anything anymore without thinking, oh, CGI. Oh, that's CGI. And it kind of takes you out of the movie. You know what I mean? And I don't know how we get beyond that, how we get rid of that, because we have so much information on how movies are made. And I just think that automatically, and I found myself, I loved, and you probably didn't like it at all, I love the scene, the sequence in the Chinese restaurant. You probably hated that. But
no, I didn't hate it. I mean, but like I said, that's where it started getting to the point
but I found myself thinking, I'm like, oh, the CGI looks good. I'm judging the CGI instead of being scared or being into what's happening in the movie. You know what I mean? So maybe those things could have done things with cuts there to make those creatures appear just faster on the screen, so you're kind of questioning, well, did that have a baby's face? What did I just see? Oh my God. I think it would have been better had they done that. But don't you think that when you see a CGI thing, you automatically go you know what I mean? It takes you out.
Yeah, I just think when I see too much CGI in a movie, I just start thinking of Michael Bay type movies that are just so over the top. I'm like, come on, okay, man. And it's when it's a movie that I really had high hopes for, and you go and you put down your hard armed bucks and you're all fired up and you got your popcorn and you're ready to hit it. And next thing you know, 2.5 hours, 3 hours later, you're sitting there with that WTF look on your face. You're like, what's just happened here, man? Can't get your friggin' money back. So, I mean, I'm sure I'll watch the movie when it comes out again and again, just to make sure. I have to try
it
sometimes to give it a chance.
Let's just say that it's not horrible. I mean, it's not some
no, it's not horrible. No, I'll watch it again.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it just doesn't live up to the sort of It Chapter 1 is mean. It's fucking mean.
But it's not but it was dark and creepy and it didn't have that CGI out the ass.
Yeah, they did it in bits and pieces in quick bursts. And
at the end, it's the climax of the movie. It gets a little crazy when you got the big lobster, claws and everything. I mean, that's definitely CGI to death and back. But there's certain parts in that movie where you didn't need the CGI, where people rely on just the creepy effect of him standing there with a bunch of balloons or
right. No, it's what your mind imagines could happen.
Yeah,
what I did like about the movie, and I have not heard any reviewers talk about this, is I loved the sense of sadness about these characters. These were broken people. These are people that went through something, and you know what? It was so screwed up that they couldn't even recall it. They had blocked a lot of it out of their heads, and I thought that they did a good job. And I think some of the reasons why some of the scenes seemed slow is because I think they were trying to build this sense of these people are really sad. you know, and there's a sort of unrequited love story between a couple of the characters as well. That's just I found very touching, and I like that aspect of it. That is something that's heavily explored in Doctor Sleep. When you go see it, that was the overwhelming emotion in Doctor Sleep was sadness. Like, this Danny Torrance is a broken person, and you really freaking feel it. That's the thing I liked about it. Chapter 2 was these adults were just like, and how about Bill Hader though? Like, Bill Hader, like, he was great, wasn't he?
Yeah, he kind of stole the flick.
Yeah, he was freaking awesome.
That's a pretty heavyweight cast. I wasn't really familiar with some of the, but obviously, you know, everybody knows Hader, and then James McAvoy is usually great in whatever he does, and just because Chastain's a great actress, but it's like you expect them to be good in movies that. But when Bill Hader comes out of, like, you know, just out of nowhere and just does this like killer acting job, it's like you don't expect that, 'cause he's never, to me, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but it's always that cheesy comedy, super bad type thing where it's like where you see him on SNL where he's doing his thing when he actually has to go, and even though he's a stand-up comedian, he's still funny, he still has that kind of a raw sort of like broken, as you use that word, kind of way about his life where he's just all screwed up like the rest of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, how screwed up is Stan? He kills himself before he can even go back. Yeah. So, I mean, these kids are messed, you know, and they turn messed up kids, they turn into messed up adults, and it's bad. And
they all have this sort of premonition that they're going to die. Now that the movie is out and everybody's seen it and everything, but this is another thing nobody has mentioned. Did you get the reference to John Carpenter's The Thing? Did you see that?
Oh yeah,
with the head. And Hader says the line, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." That is directly out of The Thing. That's exactly what happens. I was like, in fact, when that head sprouted the legs and everything, I was like, wait, who's going to say it? Who's going to say it? Yeah, I thought I like shit like those little kind of nods.
I love when directors do that, because, like, especially, you know, the modern day crop of guys are out where they just giving the nod to the master, the classic.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, who's the guy that did Andy Muschietti or Jordan Peele does it a lot. Yeah. I mean, these are James Wan. These guys are modern horror that end up being, you know, classics when they put out. They're the modern horror masters, but they're giving that nod to people that are, you know, that did it before them. And those guys admit that stuff. You read an interview with Jordan Peele or anybody like that, he makes his cast watch those freaking movies because he wants them to be in, like, in that state of mind and get that fear out of those movies and get the best, you know, effect that they can. So when they come to start to do the movie, they're like in their zone with that. Did
you see Us?
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I think it was okay. I like him as a director. I thought Get Out was cool, was different. Trying to think. I thought Us was a little bit slow at times. I thought it was.
I thought it was very intriguing in the beginning. And
he comes up with interesting plots.
Yeah, but
he's creative with that.
The second act kind of lost me. Like, I thought was a little slow, and then I felt like the ending. Now, I don't know if a lot of people didn't. I don't know if they picked up on this. Speaking of Easter eggs, but just as the movie opens, they open on that television set, and one of the movies on the VHS there is Chud, and that tells you the whole movie. If you picked up on that reference, you go exactly. You know what this movie is about. It's about people who live underground. And come out and like go after people. I mean, I thought that was really freaking cool, and and so I saw that. I'm like, oh, this got something to do with Chud. This guy, and I had just rewatched Chud. You ever seen Chud?
It's been a while.
It's like, it's a B movie, you know. It's one of those B movies with all the actors in it are good. All went on, like Daniel Stern is in it, and a bunch of people like that who are like solid actors. But it's Chud.
I think a lot of people start out in horror movies, man. I don't know what it is. You go back in through time. I mean, shit, Kevin Bacon was in the first Friday the 13th.
Johnny Depp in
Nightmare on Elm
Street. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a lot of like guys who went on to be serious actors that were in horror movies early in their career.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you going to go see next? Are you going to go see Dr. Sleep, you think? I don't, Keith, I'll be really honest with you. I don't know if you'll like it or not. It may not.
It doesn't. I would see it, but it looks like it's. I don't know. Does it get too far removed from the actual?
Here's what they did.
Is that the point? I guess. But
here's how I described the movie. The choices that Mike Flanagan made were very pragmatic. He had to satisfy the story, Dr. Sleep, and he had to make that jibe with Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, which is not Stephen King's version of The Shining. And
Stephen King said that many times.
Yeah,
yes.
and because the ending of The Shining is completely different than Stanley Kubrick's. Some characters that are alive are not alive in the other one, and vice versa and stuff like that. So I thought that he did a very good. He freaking it didn't feel like he was walking on eggshells, but there was a lot of zigzagging around with the plot to kind of make sure that everything pretty much worked. Did you ever read the book Dr. Sleep?
I have not. No.
Okay. So I think you probably like it better. They had to completely the second and third act had to be completely reworked because of Stanley Kubrick. They couldn't do what Stephen King wrote in Dr. Sleep. They had to do a different thing because there are circumstances that are different now so they tried to satisfy all these three different things. They brought them all together. I thought they did a pretty good job. Now you can't go in. The Shining is it's a classic. The Shining is up there with the great movies, right? It's up there with The Godfather and The Exorcist and French Connection. It's a Kubrick film. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's a great film.
But this is I would say this is a very good Hollywood story, Hollywood movie. It's well acted. Everybody's good in it. It's not going to be the kind of film that The Shining was by Stanley, because there's only one Stanley Kubrick. And I don't think he made any sequels to anything to my recollection. So you have to go in with it. You can't have that kind of expectation. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't.
You have to kind of
be
kind of seeing, just kind of go with it. If you do that, I think you can appreciate it just for it being a Hollywood. But Mike Flanagan did a great job with. Did you see Gerald's Game on Netflix?
I did see that.
Yeah. So he did. He did a really good. I thought he did a very fair job with that. I think he does a good job with this. So just check it out. Maybe you won't like it, but it's not. I'll tell you right now. There's not a lot of body horror or blood and guts that you like.
No, it doesn't always have to be like that for me. I did see a thing with Stephen King that said Stephen King actually said he liked it. And he's usually a prick about stuff like that, so that's a blessing.
Well, yeah, there's a mini documentary I watched on YouTube with him and Mike Flanagan talking about it together, and he absolutely gave his praises to it. There's some differences between the book, just like they always do. There's always differences, but like I said, I think it was done. They had to be done because Stanley Kubrick changed The Shining. So in everybody's mind, if they would have went with, it wouldn't have made any sense. We would have had one of these things that would have been these freaking all these extended universe things where all of a sudden you start to get all these contradictions. So they did a very good job of trying to make it all jibe, and they did a lot of great callbacks. There's a lot of great Easter eggs in it. You got to look when you go see the movie. You got to kind of look around in corners and stuff like that because there's little details that kind of are if you're a Stephen King fan or you're a fan of the original Shining, you'll pick up on. And there's this. I just go see it because I don't want to say too much about it because it just came out.
Yeah, I'll definitely probably have my little. If I see it this week, I'll have my own review, and then we can actually review it together.
Yeah, we'll talk about. Yeah, go see it. Is there anything else you want to say about it, Chapter 2, or?
No, like I said, I think that the people out there that have seen it, like to know their opinion on it. If anybody's watching out there or if they watch later, just drop your opinion and let us know how you liked it. Like I said, I didn't watching The Shining. You wouldn't expect Dr. Sleep to be anywhere near The Shining. When I started, even getting myself ready to go see it, Chapter 2, I didn't expect it to be a masterpiece. So I thought the first one was great. I didn't think they were gonna.
It's tough. very rarely do you come up with a sequel that equals or betters the original. I mean, there's a couple of cases like Godfather 2, Empire Strikes Back. There's a couple of times when they were really able to like get lightning in a bottle twice, but it's hard to do. It's really freaking hard. Especially the better the original is, the harder it is to top with some kind of sequel.
Well, you could go on and on with that. I mean, it's like The Exorcist. You're not going to ever top that. They tried umpteen times and never did it. They could never be better than the original Amityville Horror. They made 15 or 18 of those friggin' things. I think those are a lot of movies that they made. Some of them I never even would bother watching. Trying to.
Yeah, I watched them. I've seen
Halloween. They try to make Halloween. How many friggin'
let me ask you. Let me ask you this, because tell me what you don't like about Rob Zombie's Halloween. I thought it was like dirty and edgy and gritty and nasty.
Did I ever say I didn't like it?
I don't know, but so many people hate that. They're like, "Oh my God, he ruined it." And, I'm like,
no, I think he has this thing. I mean, he definitely has his own thing, and I think his movies and his directing come across like his music. It's just abrasive, man. It's really rough.
No, but so many people hate that.
It's heavy. Yeah. It's like he's heavy on violence in those movies. I mean, when those kill scenes and some of those and those ones, man, and Michael Myers is just like on steroids.
I thought that it was, quite frankly, a more kind of, I don't say realistic, but just in terms of the violence. Like, I'm typically not one of these guys who loves gore for the sake of gore, but in the sense of the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, I thought like it made sense. Like, I think in a movie like that, if he would have shied away from the gore, I would have felt like, oh, you're kind of like copping out. But it felt like it needed that. There's times when you need that. And there's times when I feel it's gratuitous, but there's people that just love to go see. Like, did you see Haunt? I recommend. I think it'll be one you.
Yeah, where do you say that's on Prime Video?
It's on Prime Video, and I think it's on Prime. Like, we don't have to pay for it. I know it's on Shudder too, but it's on Prime. I'm pretty sure I'm 90% sure it's on Prime. But it's right up your alley. I was like, I didn't really dig it. You can watch it. We could talk about it too. I don't want to talk about movies you haven't seen yet, but.
Yeah,
watch it. Kind of give me your. But it's one of those examples of one of those movies where I felt like, okay, this was a movie was just made to show how many horrible ways we can kill people, and like I felt like I've seen that before. I feel like, okay, I've seen this movie before, but other people are gonna love it. I saw it on a recommendation of a reviewer who I really respect, and 90% of the time, if he says it's good, I like it, but. This was one of those times I saw one of the ones he recommended, and I wasn't real nuts about it. But I thought about you, and I thought, I think Keith might dig this, so you might check it out.
I'll have to check it out because, I mean, sometimes I do like movies like that. I get in moods where I expect certain things from movies where I think a lot of movies that I've liked over the last 10, 15 years even are less, violent, but at the same time, they don't rely on the CGI to like carry them. You know what I mean? That's why I like movies. That's why I like movies like Hereditary a lot. I liked movies like The Descent. If you remember, that was very violent.
I think that's
very
really
violent,
good.
but it was still dark and creepy, and it was like this,
And it was different. And it had that sense of claustrophobia and right.
I think that's still one of the best horror films in the last 25, 30 years. I think it's up there.
So what do you...
It would make my top five.
So let's figure out what we're going to talk about, what we're going to sort of get into next week. Figure out what you want to do. You let me know if you want to... Do you want to... We can talk about Hereditary if you'd like. You can go see Dr. Sleep and give me your...
I think I'm going to go... I'm going to try to definitely go see Dr. Sleep this week, and I'll make it a point to see it, and we'll wrap that up because, I don't want to get too far back. We can do some throwback stuff, but anybody that's seen Hereditary knows it's a badass flick, so hopefully that's common sense.
I'll send you there's some great film analysis channels on YouTube, and I'll send you some to check out because I think I've watched the 20 or 30 videos on The Shining. There's so many.
I've seen one where a guy he had way too much time on his hands. It was like a 20-minute video of him explaining the weird bear suit scene.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I watched.
Like an English.
He's got like
dude is just
Rob Ager, yeah,
he's out there, man.
Yeah, he gets into the whole thing about how it's all about Danny being molested and. That's the whole idea.
Like,
Rob Ager.
As you see in this spot right here, Jack's leaving the room and he stares into the bedroom. That's very common right there for him for a child molester to do that. I'm like, really?
Let me just say that, like, that is. I also always thought. Here's a different interpretation of that. I always thought that was almost like a fourth wall break. Like, there's nothing like that in the rest of the movie. And I don't think there's anything like that in any other Stanley Kubrick movies. And I thought, and it was all, I kind of felt like when he does that, because I totally remember that, I felt like he was looking at the audience. And I felt like it was very threatening and very scary. And, like, was like, whoa, dude, like, am I next?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the only video I ever watched with that guy. What's his name?
Rob Ager.
Yeah, that's the first one I watched because I wanted to see what he would say about the guy in the bear suit, and it was pretty much what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I've seen The Shining probably more than I care to admit. But it's like I never, ever once in that movie ever got a sense that that kid was being molested by his dad. That's my opinion.
There is that's what makes The Shining such a great movie. Because there are so many things you can, there's so many things in that and everything, and because it's a Stanley Kubrick movie, there's nothing in that movie that doesn't mean something. He's like constantly, he tells the story visually. I mean, he's famous for movies with, like he did 2001, which has almost no dialogue. He tells the whole movie, he tells the whole story with like all visuals. So if there's some kind of visual in a Stanley Kubrick movie, it bears like pondering, but we could talk about go see Dr. Sleep and we'll talk about that next week. Okay,
let's do that.
All right, my man. Hey, it was good talking to you, and we'll do it again next week. All right.
Yeah, man. But I can probably let me see what's going on. I'll probably do it a little earlier, even.
Just stay in touch with me. I can do it sometime Sunday evening. We can play it by ear. All right.
All right, no problem.
All right, my man. You take care. Have a good one, buddy.
You too. See ya.